Now, when I titled this video "Evil Music," I wasn't I wasn't about to go on a rant saying how, oh, rock music's satanic, or however your grandparents used to do, back in the 80s whenever they thought Motley Crue was the end of the world. I pretty much just made that the title of the video to generalize what the feelings and emotions I'm talking about that this music brings, and also it's just kind of simple, catches your eye. But the songs that I am including in this are what I think are some of the most interesting pieces of media on the internet right now. Now, disclaimer, before I start talking about all these songs, I'm not majoring in music theory or anything. I'm not smart about music. I don't have a musical bone in my body. I just thought that this topic was kind of interesting. Let me go ahead and start with the first song I want to talk about, Solace by Earl Sweatshirt. Before I start really going in depth about what I think about this song, its effects on, whatever I managed to flow out of my mouth, I wanted to bring up the fact that I have not been through anything nearly as bad as what Earl Sweatshirt went through when he made this song. Dealing with just a bunch of loss and substance abuse and, the death of his grandmother. But I have experienced not great emotions rather recently, in the past year. So I can't specifically relate to the type of loss that he felt when making this song, but I know something similar to it. And while I haven't listened to the entire 10 minutes of Solace, I just think what I have heard from it on TikTok, it is such a interesting song. While it's mainly used for those funny schizo posts you see on your For You page, those are always entertaining, but I think the underlying song is so much more interesting because, music captures emotion. That's pretty much what music was invented for, capturing emotion and making people experience emotions. Some songs make you feel sad, some make you feel happy, angry, whatever, the whole shebang. But Solace manages to make you feel like empty. Like I said, I'm not a music theory major. I'm not an expert in this at all. I'm trying to articulate this as best as I possibly can. But it brings out an emotion that I thought was impossible to do in music without making the song sound like absolute shit. Like, this song, for what it is, it sounds pretty good. But man, if you are in a bad headspace, I actually recommend you do not listen to that song, because it just makes you feel not good about yourself or just about anything, really. From what I can describe it, it's a backdrop to your darkest feelings and thoughts. Not something that should be taken lightly, because it came from a dark place, and it's a snapshot of that incredibly dark place that people go to whenever they experience heavy emotions like, grief and sadness and just utter depression. This song, and another one that I'm going to bring up right now, 12 Stout Street. I haven't done as much research into 12 Stout Street as I did Solace, but I wanted to talk about these two because they get paired up a lot in TikTok. Because 12 Stout Street, a few years ago, there used to be a bunch of slideshows about schizo posting, the pain is unbearable, with either 12 Stout Street or Solace. And while Solace is more of like a grief, like an empty, hopeless grief, 12 Stout Street really is just living a horrible life, like it's, what I've heard of it, the guy rapping is talking about the terrible living conditions he's experiencing while living in his neighborhood. And while I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what it's like to, be, live in projects or anything like that, or be incredibly poor, hopelessness is, while I hate to say it because it's a negative emotion, it is a unifying emotion for most humans, because there's just moments in your life where you just feel crushed. Like you feel like you're rock bottom. There is nothing you can do to get up, except for to just wait it out and wait till you get better or things around you get better. These two songs, I feel like, are really interesting because they are incredibly sad songs, right? But they've made themselves incredibly popular on like a popular social media site like TikTok, mainly through jokes, but these jokes are just thinly veiled cries for help, I feel. Like schizo posts, yeah, they're scary, and I like scary content like that. But I find that these songs have gotten so popular on such a popular social media network like TikTok to be an incredibly interesting phenomenon, because, like I said, Hopelessness is a very universal feeling for most people. And, you know, while the schizo posts are funny and scary and whatnot, and how, oh yeah, the fog is coming, guys, you know, these two songs have really been brought to people's attention. And while they are heartbreaking to listen to, and to hear the stories behind them is just awful, these are necessary pieces of media, because if you don't have every emotion in the range of, you know, in the spectrum of emotions represented, then what's the point? You know, all music could be happy. Then you'd feel like no one else is feeling the sadness or the anger that you feel. The rest of the songs in this list are kind of loosely tied together, but I just wanted to kind of group them into this video because I thought they were interesting to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and begin with the album that got really popular, I think in 2022, Everywhere at the End of Time. This isn't your usual, you know, this isn't your usual music album. Yeah, fuck bitches, get money. Or this is an interpretation of something that is very hard for humans to grasp. And what I mean by that is, guy who made the entire album, I'll put his name up on the screen, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but he made this entire album about dementia and Alzheimer's. Now, for anybody who's had, you know, older family members like grandmas or great-grandmas or whoever, you know, and seeing them get Alzheimer's and slowly deteriorate from Alzheimer's, it is such a strange feeling, because this person that has been, you know, one of the nicest people in your life, has been there for you and cared for you forever up until this point, can barely recognize you or your family members when you walk in the room. I completely understand this, because when I was 14 years old, my great-grandma, she passed away. And before that, she had Alzheimer's for, I think, about a year. And it was just so difficult to adjust to the fact that she didn't remember who half of my family was. I remember one time we went to see her in her nursing home, which unfortunately she lived in. There's 4 of me and my siblings. All 4 of us walked in there and said hey to her. She only recognized me. All 3 of my younger siblings she didn't really remember. And that, it was really hard to deal with, because what do you mean you don't remember? You know, you've known us since we were born. I know that's not incredibly long amount of time compared to how long you've been alive, but it's just so difficult to grasp, because Alzheimer's and dementia is such a complex disease, to where the human mind is just so old to the point where it falls in on itself pretty much. And the tracks in this album reflect that so heavily. Now, being in a nursing home, the one I went to, the one that my great-grandma lived in, was not super upscale, but it was livable, right? Unfortunately, it smelled like not pleasant all the time, because, you know, those poor old folks. But it wasn't super run down or anything, which thank God. But still, that feeling of walking in there, walking past all the rooms of all the old people who had full, long lives and experienced loss, sadness, happiness, complete, complex joys, and things that I've probably never experienced, because they come from such different worlds from mine now. It was such a weird, unsettling feeling that would make my skin crawl. I feel like, especially the later tracks, really reflect that. Now, I know the most famous one, It's Just a Burning Memory. That's everybody's kind of, I guess you could call it favorite. I wouldn't really say I have any favorites in this track, because they're all horrifying. But every single one of them represents a deeper stage of dementia, and just the the horrible weird feeling that you get from hearing all these old samples of all these songs from like 80 plus years ago, really drive home that feeling of walking past all these pretty much husks of people who lived these full lives years and years ago, that you see in your history books now and you feel so disconnected from. But here I am walking past the room of a 95-year-old man who was alive when Hitler and FDR were alive. It's such a strange feeling that now these people don't remember who their loved ones are. You know, they have to sit there and hold a toy baby to be comforted and keep calm. You're telling me that these were once living real people, living adults that made decisions and bought cars and bought houses and went to the bank and lived their lives? Really reflects how strange human life is, and how it's so fragile, and how just one tiny little disease can ruin the entire thing. Alright gamers, hope we all enjoyed this video. It's a little bit of a change of form. I just wanted to, probably not going to do an outro anymore. I didn't do an intro, But I just want to let you guys know this is probably going to be the norm now. I also had my buddy Twig Branchley, aka Narhan. He's editing this video, so give him a round of applause. He's pretty cool, and he did it for free. I will be capitalizing on this free labor. But anyways, it's probably the last outro I'll do. Maybe I'll like throw in a few words here or there, but it's like the last time you're gonna like see me from in person, I guess. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, comment, go to Narhan's channel. It's pretty cool, Mr. Twig. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe. God bless you. Bye.